statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Welcome, Bitcoiners. Welcome to another live spaces, or another live space, I should say, with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and I am your Bitcoiner for life, or at least that's what I want to be. Welcome. Come on in. And I guess I should say good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I know we draw somewhat of an international audience here, so wherever you are in the world, welcome. We have an interesting talk I want to have with you today, and I think it's fitting for what is actually going on with Bitcoin today. So come on in, make yourselves comfortable. I like to banter just a minute or so, or several minutes, to allow as many people as possible who intend on joining to get themselves settled here. Grab the beverage of your choice. Grab a pen, a notepad to take some notes. We're going to do a deep dive on, I think, a topic that I think is at the uppermost part of most people's mind regarding Bitcoin today, and that is volatility. Now, I actually, a few days ago, or just a while ago, I should say, I did do a special talk on Bitcoin's volatility. And if you did not catch that, I think it's extraordinarily appropriate for today. So I strongly encourage that you check out my podcast. It's called Bitcoin Unleashed. All right, it can be found on every single podcasting platform you can think of. So pick the poison of your choice. As I'm always telling you that I do really like the Fountain app, because first of all, you can earn free sats just listening to me and other podcasters on the app. Also, that app allows me to take some of my long form content there and splice it into shorter clips, so you can get the full episodes, as well as each episode. My team sort of slices each episode into interesting clips that range anywhere from 4 minutes to 10 minutes or so, that zero in on very important points made during the long form talk. So because that app gives me the ability to do that, I really, really like it. I think it makes our talks a lot more digestible. So Bitcoin Unleashed, and definitely do your best to try to take in that episode that I believe is entitled Bitcoin is Volatility is Vitality. All right. Now, we're going to do another talk today on volatility, but before I do that, I do want to make those who are unfamiliar with my style here aware of the fact that I do not pass the mic during my talks. I feel that my style of delivery is best suited for me delivering a monologue, and you asking questions during that monologue or after that monologue, which I'm very happy to take. No topic is off limits. Now, I'm going to do my best not to keep you too long with this, because I do think that since it's somewhat redundant on some of the things I talked about in my more thorough talk on Bitcoin's volatility is vitality, I don't think it's necessary for us to delve or go too long on this topic. But there are some interesting additional points I'd like to make. So I want you to note that I specifically chose my words very carefully regarding the title of this talk. I specifically titled it on purpose, Why the US Dollar Price of Bitcoin Needs to Be Volatile. And I think that's important. It's important for us to start there. You see, Bitcoin itself is not volatile. And I think it's extraordinarily important for everyone to understand this. In fact, Bitcoin as an asset is actually the most unvolatile asset that the world has ever encountered. It's the most certain thing that has ever come into our existences. Bitcoin over the past 15 years has never broken a promise. From its very day, it has done exactly what it promised to do, and it's never failed. Bitcoin has never been down for over 10 years, a decade, never, not for a second, not for an instant, not a nanosecond. Virtually every single 10 minutes of its life, a brand new block is produced. Bitcoin's issuance rate is mapped out for over 100 years, all the way to the year 2140. We know exactly how many blocks it's going to take before every Bitcoin halving. We know that no matter what you do, no matter what you wish, no matter what you want, all right, Bitcoin's difficulty rate will occur after a certain amount of blocks. Bitcoin's halving will occur after a certain amount of blocks. And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin to ever exist. There is no asset in existence today with that level of certainty. There is no asset other than Bitcoin today that maps out its monetary policy in advance, that tells you its payment scale, that is so reliable that it's become the most secure network the world has ever known. So in that regard, Bitcoin is the antithesis of volatility, uncertainty. And a lot of people use those two words interchangeably. Volatility equals uncertainty. But Bitcoin has no volatility. So what gives Bitcoin the impression that it's volatile? It's the US dollar. You see, it's the US dollar's view of Bitcoin that is volatile. It's the US dollar's opinion of what the value of what it says the value of Bitcoin is. It's that opinion that's volatile. You see, the world has a variety of opinions about Bitcoin, and what casts those opinions are fiat currencies. And so you can look at each one of these fiat currencies as if they were like a different pair of glasses. You see, the US dollar is one set of glasses, and through the eyes of the US dollar, Bitcoin is valued at $40,700. But through the eyes of the Argentinian peso, Bitcoin is trading at all-time new highs by a long shot and is parabolic and straight up. Two sets of glasses, two views, two different volatility sets. If you were to look at Bitcoin through the eyes of the Turkish lira, you would have an asset. You would see Bitcoin at all-time new highs and performing very differently. If you were to look at it through the eyes of the Japanese yen or the euro, you'd see somewhat different pictures. And so it's these different pictures prove that it is not the underlying item that's volatile. It's the opinion of the item through which you are viewing this unvolatile item. The US dollar's opinion is volatile. The US dollar can't make up its mind. The US dollar assesses Bitcoin at 69,000, and it also assesses Bitcoin at 16,000. It's still trying to figure out for itself what Bitcoin is, where it fits in the world. But it is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't care about the opinion of the US dollar. Bitcoin doesn't care about the opinion of the Argentinian peso. Bitcoin continues every 10 minutes, tick-tock, next block, to produce another block. Every 10 minutes, it gets stronger. Every 10 minutes, it gets exponentially taller, exponentially longer. Every 10 minutes, it becomes more unhackable. So if you didn't hack it in the last 10 minutes, it's now exponentially more difficult to hack Bitcoin in the following 10-minute period. Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin is up, operational every single second of the day. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It is never sick at sea. It doesn't care what you write about it. It doesn't care what your opinion of it is. It continues to do day in and day out, 10 minutes at a time, every single thing that it mapped, that it promised to do since October 31st of 2008, actually. And so it's important to understand what we're talking about in terms of volatility. Bitcoin is the constant. The things that change are the opinions of the different fiat currencies that are dying against it. All right, now that that's said, with that being said, that volatility on the part of the opinions of the fiat currencies, it still means vitality. The very fact that their opinions, the opinions of these fiat currencies, those opinions are volatile, means that Bitcoin is mixing it up, that Bitcoin is breaking through the foundation upon which these corrupt things are actually created. They don't know what to do with Bitcoin. These fiat currencies don't know what to think. They don't know how to feel. They're threatened. They're bothered. Sometimes they're pleased. But make no mistake about it, the price that they dictate, these currencies dictate the price. These currencies, their opinions are what you're seeing moving up and down. They are so thrown by this very certain thing that they're volatile, which means that Bitcoin's vitality frightens them. Now, again, with all of that being said, I do want to touch upon, I would say, 4 normal reasons why the opinions of these fiat currencies are volatile. We've established that it's not Bitcoin that's volatile. It's the opinions of the different fiat currencies that are volatile. So let's go over why they have these currencies, and let's settle on one. Let's go over why the US dollar has a hard time assessing what this thing is. How do I value it? There are 4 main reasons why the US dollar has a hard time. And what I mean by this is we're going to look at the normal reasons in the traditional financial arena that the US dollar is used to operating in. Why it's so confusing, because Bitcoin lacks some of these things that the dollar is used to assessing. So item number 1, or normal reason number 1, first of all, Bitcoin's a baby. Bitcoin's place in the world is still being figured out by the dollar. It's a baby. It's on January the 3rd, some people would say January the 9th, Bitcoin has its 15th birthday, and its role is still in the world, is still being established. It's still early. Now, some might feel that, well, 15 is not really young, Oliver, but yes, 15 really is young when it comes to asset classes. You see, silver has been in existence and continues to be utilized and adopted today after 9,000 years. Gold, one can say that gold is still being adopted today, and it's over 6,000 years used by human beings as a form of money, as a form of a store of value. 6,000 years. Bonds, despite being a relatively new asset class, bonds are over 600 years old. Equities, stocks, over 200, almost 300 years old. And then you have even individual items that we value today. Apple's almost 50 years old. Microsoft is close behind. Even some of the younger assets that have come into existence, relatively recently, are older than Bitcoin. Tesla, Amazon, Google, they're all older than Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is 15 years old. Yet, in less than 15 years old, it became the best performing asset the world has ever known. And it's become one of the most valuable assets the world has ever had. And so, because it's a baby, its performance, its record, its history just doesn't match. It's freaking confusing. How can a 15-year-old, how can a 13, 14, 15-year-old have a record like this? How can it blow past 8,000 other assets to become the ninth or 10th most valuable in the world? How does it blow past 200 countries, 200 countries to become the 16th most valuable currency that has ever existed inside of 15 years? No one knows what to do with this thing. The record doesn't match the years, doesn't match the youth. And it's freaking confusing for the US dollar. It's confusing for all of them. What is this thing? Who is this? What alien has come to visit us? What the heck is this? And so, because of that, there's this back and forth of, what is it worth? What is it? I can't, it doesn't fit any of our traditional models. Nothing's ever done this before. It's a baby. Item number 2, Bitcoin, because it's a baby, it's still small. Now, listen, guys, Bitcoin is a technological innovation. And a lot of people have a hard time viewing money as a technology, but money is the ultimate technology. In fact, I'd say that money is the most important technology of all. Money is an innovation by human beings because every other species doesn't really have money. And because the human species has innovated in a way to create money as a concept, human beings do not have to, although they still do, we know, but they do not have to be violent to survive. Because of money, humans can trade and interact with each other. Without money, they must take and kill and be violent with each other. And because the humans we as a species, we operate on a higher level because of this technological innovation called money. It is what separates us from every other species on the planet. And so money is the ultimate innovation. Money is the ultimate technology. But as technological innovations go, there are two types. There's the financial technical innovations, which I would, at the current moment, put Bitcoin there. And then there are your non-financial technical innovations. Now, the reason why I think it's important to separate these two types of innovations is because anything that is non-financial gets adopted faster. And anything that tends to try to touch money and innovation in the money area, the trade area, is adopted more slowly. But despite this, Bitcoin is being adopted rapidly, yet it's still small. Now, how small is it? Well, less than 1% of every single human being has it. less than half of 1%. I'll even go that far. Less than half of 1% of all 8 billion human beings on earth have it. Yet, despite this tiny drop of adoption, it has become the best performing asset the world has ever known. It's become the most secure network human beings have ever had access to. It's become the 16th most valuable currency on planet Earth. It's become the 9th, 10th most valuable asset the world has ever seen. And it's done this with a tiny pinch of adoption. It's done this with less than half the people in the world having adopted. Imagine where it will be or what it will be when 1%, 5%, 10% adoption occurs. It's freaking mind-boggling. So this is another reason why it is opined by fiat currencies, especially the US dollar, as being so strange. I don't know what to make of this thing. It's tiny, it's small, yet it has this level of power. What is this thing? I can't figure this out. Now, another thing that's connected to the fact that it's still relatively small, Bitcoin is roughly 800 is worth, from a US dollar perspective, $800 billion, more or less. And while that's big, and trust me, 800 billion is extraordinarily big. I posted about this today. But what, as big as that is, it's still, from an asset class, small when it comes to countries and nation states and things of that nature. And so, to give you an idea of how big 800 billion is, I did this in my post. If you were to, on an inflation basis, on an inflation adjusted basis, if you were to spend $1 million every single day from the time Christ was born, or was stated as born, that's roughly 4 BC. If you were to, from that point, 4 BC, if you were to spend $1 million every single day up until today, what's today? Monday, December 11th, 2023. 4 BC to today, $1 million every single day. You wouldn't even come close to $100 billion. Not even close. That's how enormous $800 billion of value is. Human beings have a hard time wrapping their mind around big numbers, and exponential numbers they're worse at. These are exponential numbers. This is huge. It's beyond the human capability to truly understand how huge. But despite how huge that is, it is still relatively small in the grand scheme of asset classes. I read an article several days ago that stated that we are on the verge. This year's on the verge for being one of the largest years in recent history of countries buying gold. Now, a lot of true Bitcoiners would say, wow, are they far behind? They're actually putting their resources into this ancient rock, and we have Bitcoin today. But I understand the need for them to do that. It is interesting that the nation states purchasing of gold today is at a higher rate than it has been in the foreseeable past. In not only the recent past, but even in the medium term past, it is at warp speed right now. Countries are uncertain of the future, and they communicate that uncertainty and that belief that things are not really solid at the foundation. They communicate that by purchasing the only thing they can purchase, which is gold. And in reality, I understand it, because $800 billion is still too small of a pond for nation states to operate in. The price would be moved too much. And we think Bitcoin is volatile today. If nation states started to act simultaneously together in that pond, the volatility would just be astronomically more. And so it's small. So in the grand scheme of things, it's still small. So it can be knocked around a little bit more than gold can at a valuation of 13 trillion. All right. And so another reason that there is some excessive volatility attached to the opinion of the US dollar regarding Bitcoin is that Bitcoin has no cash flow. And you hear this from the likes of Warren Buffett and things of that nature. Why Warren Buffett has traditionally not liked gold, it has no cash flow, and why he considers Bitcoin rat poison because it has no cash flow. Most assets that we are used to in the traditional realm are priced or assessed on the value of their future cash flows. Now, this future cash flow could be in the form of dividends when it comes to stocks. It could be on the form of their their surplus earnings, or in the case of a bond, it could be the coupon rate or the interest rate that you earn on a bond. But assets in the traditional world, in the traditional financial world, those assets have historically been assessed and valued based on the value of their future cash flows, not their current cash flow, but their projected future cash flows. Because Bitcoin has no cash flow, it can only really be assessed by these people based on a future valuation price. And so it makes for more speculation. There is no cash flow to fall back on. So it's more purely a price projection model that traditional people have to apply to Bitcoin. This by itself will always make something slightly more volatile because the safety net of cash from the traditional financial point of view, mind you, that safety net of falling back on cash is not there. So it's a pure price projection item from the eyes of TradFi, traditional finance. And the last thing I will point out as to why the dollar will have this volatile opinion of Bitcoin is that it's because it's a relatively young asset class, its derivatives market has not had ample, its derivative market is even younger. And so derivatives on top of Bitcoin are still being fleshed out. We're talking about your futures market is still a baby. If Bitcoin's a baby, then the futures market that's built on top of Bitcoin is actually even a younger baby. So options and derivatives like futures and these hedging tools are still starting to be developed on this brand new asset. It's not fleshed out as well as other assets. And so the derivatives market does do a lot to quell some of the volatility of an asset because you can hedge and protect yourself against said volatility, which actually ultimately has an effect on dampening the volatility of the underlying asset itself. So a very young derivatives market contributes to this volatility. No cash flow on the asset contributes to this volatility. The fact that it's still as big as $800 billion market is, it's still small in the grand scheme of things for your really massive players like nation states. And it's still age-wise a baby, and its record doesn't match its youth. And so these four things, in my opinion, from a traditional person's point of view, this is why it's volatile. This is why the US dollar, which is used to dealing with traditional financial assets, won't be able to neatly fit Bitcoin in its established framework. It just doesn't fit. And so the opinion of it is constantly changing. And that it's that opinion that's changing that gives Bitcoin the perception, that creates the perception that Bitcoin is volatile when the item itself is not volatile at all. Now, with these 4 points out of the way, I actually want to come to the real crux of my talk today. What I really wanted to get to. Those are all the normal reasons why someone can point to Bitcoin being somewhat volatile. But there are very special reasons why, in my opinion, the volatility is necessary. The volatility is a feature and not a bug. And let's go over these things. It's only 2 for the most part. Well, it's really only 1. And there are 2 derivatives of this one reason. So why is the volatility, or what you call the volatility of Bitcoin, so special? Why is it needed? I'm going to tell you why. Bitcoin, as this young, burgeoning, new monetary system for the entire world, it requires a special type to adopt it to succeed. Listen to me carefully. A network is only as good as the people who initially adopt it, who initially take it on as theirs. The foundation of Bitcoin must be filled with a certain type for that foundation to be unbreakable, uncrackable, indestructible. Bitcoin requires a certain type in its early years. It needs this type. It needs a zealot. Bitcoin needs the martyr. Bitcoin needs the evangelist. It needs the person that says, I will die on this hill. It needs that type. It needs the strongest. It needs the most convicted. It needs the one that they don't care what the fiat's opinion is of Bitcoin. It needs the ones that see it the clearest. It needs the most committed. It needs the most convicted. It needs the ones who have gone beyond belief to actually knowing what this thing is. And volatility is the test by fire, because it is only after you truly get this epiphany. It is only after Bitcoin is truly understood. It is only after you understand that Bitcoin is not about buying something for $1 and selling it for $2, that it is about freedom. It is about freedom from debasement. It's about freedom from the coercion to have to work for someone, another man's coupon, another man's money. It's freedom from theft. It's freedom from being stolen from for eon after eon. It's freedom from elite control. It's freedom from a modern day form of financial slavery. It's freedom from inflation. It's freedom from your time being taken from you. It's total freedom from all of that. It's not about fiat gains. It's not about buying something cheap and selling it for later. It is about becoming free. And Bitcoin needs the foundation of the people. It needs its foundation filled with those types. And volatility is the ultimate fire, is the ultimate test by fire for ensuring that the only people left after a shaking like this are the ones that truly believe. The only ones left after these violent, volatile, up and down movements, the only ones that you'll ever see holding on, the only ones that don't care, are the ones who've had that epiphany, the ones who realize that this is not about just gaining more of the corrupt coupon. This is about freeing myself and my family forever. And Bitcoin requires this type to become its foundation. A network is only as good as the people who adopt it, especially in the beginning. It needs people that are going to become the buyers and the supporters of last resort. And this volatility ensures that those who are not part of that group, those who are not the 13 percenters, those who have not had that epiphany, those who have not raised the level of their sophistication to the point where they understand this has nothing whatsoever to do about the opinion of the corrupt. This has everything to do about the freedom from the corrupt. And that there is no possibility to lose in Bitcoin. The only thing you can do is gain. It needs to rid itself periodically from the leeches and the latchers on that are not part of this group. It needs to free itself from those who are trying to manipulate it for more of the corrupt. Bitcoin doesn't want them, not at this particular time in its life. It doesn't want the fiat masters. It doesn't want people adopting it to just go back to what it's come to free them from. And so volatility is used, in my opinion, to rid itself of the garbage, to rid itself of the leeches, the ones that are simply utilizing it and manipulating it to become more and more of a fiat slave. That is not its purpose, and it will not allow that for very long. That is my view, and I'm sticking with it. It uses volatility to keep itself clean. Now, this gives me a perfect segue to move into the second part of this, and I'm actually done with this. You see, if Bitcoin were to move up in a straight beeline, it would attract more and more of the wrong type, more and more of the wrong people, more and more of the wrong entities, organizations. And because it would build up this excessive amount of leverage in the system. You see, those who want fiat gains are going to be your biggest leverage, your biggest leverage players. They're the ones that are going to be doing your 50-to-1 leverage plays, your 100, the stupid 100-to-1 plays, the 10-to-1 plays, the 20-to-1 leverage plays. They're after fiat gains. They're not after freedom. And the smoother, if Bitcoin were to just go up 4 years at a time in a smooth way, because it is programmed to go up every 4 years of your life forever. But if it were to do that just by going up smoothly every 4 years, leverage would build up bigger and bigger and bigger. It would be a honeypot for the wrong adopter. It would be a honeypot for the fiat masters. It would be a honeypot for more slavery when it has come to free us from that. And so every single time you get this buildup of this type, this buildup of leverage positions, it is going to stop and violently go into a jerk of some type to shake that off. And this is exactly what's happened in this last run up to 44,700 and change. If you were to look at the chart, you would see a smooth, almost straight line up from the mid 30,000 level. Nearly a little less than a $10,000 move without even the smallest of a pullback. This smooth line helped to build up this excessive amount of leverage in the system. People with their 180 and 50 to 1 leverage plays. It got to the point where Bitcoin had to shake them off. And if you watch this carefully, if you watch the level of leverage in the system, if you watch that carefully, that's information that is very prevalent today. How much leverage is built up on the Bitcoin shitcoin exchanges? I'll give you one app that you can download right now to monitor this. I use the CoinGlass app. It's for iOS and Android. You can also use it on a desktop and go to their website. But CoinGlass app, you download it on their phone and you keep your finger on the pulse of the leverage that's being built up into the Bitcoin system. And you'll notice that when this bubble, when this number starts to grow and grow, there's a certain point at which Bitcoin will stall. It'll stall after reaching this number, flounder around a little bit, and boom, it will go into a violent jerk of some type, whether that jerk or volatility is to the upside or downside, just to shake off the excessive leverage that has leached on itself. And this is how Bitcoin keeps itself clean. Now, I think it's important to understand what I'm about to share. I've shared this on a number of occasions, but I think it's repetition has a huge value when it comes to these things, right? I think it's important to understand that with all of this volatility, the vast majority of the volatility is to the upside. Bitcoin's volatility is net positive to the upside over a 3-year period and net negative to the downside in only a 1-year period. So Bitcoin operates in a 4-year cycle, and 3 of those years of the 4-year cycle, every single 4 years, guys, this is mathematically programmed. Its volatility is net positive to the upside. So volatility in this regard is a blessing. All right. So its volatility is net positive to the upside 3 years out of 4, and it's only net negative to the downside 1 year out of every 4. So the volatility is a blessing in that regard. But with that being said, I think it's also important to understand that Bitcoin's 80% of Bitcoin's annualized gain, 80% comes over only a 13-day period throughout the entire year. I'm going to repeat that because it's something that I want you to hold on to. Bitcoin is the best performing asset the world has ever known. Yet, 80% of its annualized gains historically, every single year, has come over only 13 days out of the year, and they're scattered days. It's not like there's 13 days in a row and you're finished for the year. There's no way to predict when 1 or 2 are going to come and then stop. And so this is one of the reasons why trading is almost impossible. It's almost impossible to successfully trade over any extended period of time because Bitcoin's gains come over such a very concentrated number of days, and those days are random. And so this randomness awards the hodler. It does not reward the trader. And I pound the table on this all the time. But I want you to be aware of this, and I want you to understand that Bitcoin's as volatile as it is, it's net positive. Its volatility is net positive, which means it's a plus for us 3/4 of the time, and only 1/4 of the time is it a negative to the downside. And Bitcoin's volatility to the upside every single year, its price appreciation comes across over only 13 days, which requires that you be in it at all times. If you're in and out, you're going to miss it. Now, let me give you another statistic. If you miss one of the 13 days, you cut the performance in half. That's crazy statistically. If you miss 2 or 3, you're done. And so these statistics are what a professional trader would study. And when a professional trader understands these numbers, there is no way, do you understand, that it is no way that they're going to trade it. They're going to know this asset with these metrics. This asset is best for holding and just accumulating on almost every significant dip. Why is the best strategy to just be on the buy side? Because it's 3-1. The volatility is 3-1 to the upside. 3 years up, 1 year down. Why would you bet with the 1 versus the 3? That doesn't make sense. If I gave you a loaded dice, right? And this dice was guaranteed to give you, when you roll this pair of dice, it's loaded. It's guaranteed to give you, right, the number 7 3 times out of every 4 throws. Now listen to me carefully. If I were to give you a loaded dice, and you know every single time you roll this 4 times, you're going to get the number 7 3 times. It might not be 3 times in a row in this case, but you're going to get this 3 times out of 4. Now, you take this pair of dice and you're going to bet money with it. What number out of all the numbers, 2, 3, 4, what number are you going to bet every single time? You're going to bet 7. You're not going to be there where like, well, you know what? I got 2 7s in a row. I've got 2 rolls left. I think I'm going to bet a different number this time. You idiot. No, you're going to bet 7 every single time because you're only going to be wrong once. You're guaranteed to be right 3 times. So who cares if this is the wrong one? If this is the wrong one, the next 3 are the right one. And so this is the certainty that Bitcoin delivers to us today. Every 4 years, it's 3 years up and 1 year down. Every single time. It's mathematically designed to be that way. And so when you got an asset with these numbers where it's 3 years up, 1 year down, so it's 3-1 up, you don't bet down. That's dumb. You use down to profit from the up. If you're getting the down now, then 3 up is coming. Because there's only 4 we've only got 4 things. There's 1 down and 3 up. So if you're getting the down now, then what's next is the 3 up. And so why would you bet down instead of just bet up all the time? You're guaranteed to be a winner, and a big winner, because when you're betting up on the way down, you're preparing yourself, you're accumulating, you're fattening your coffers to benefit from the 3 up that's coming. And so any bet to the downside is ignorant. Any bet is an intellectually challenged bet. Any bet to the downside is a sign that a person is ignorant about the metrics and the numbers and the maths behind Bitcoin. You don't bet down. That is stupid. And that is why down has never worked. Oh, yes, it's worked for a week. It's worked for a couple of months. But what's that over 15 years? And so understanding these things, in my opinion, raises your level of sophistication about Bitcoin. So let me do a quick summary of things that I believe, based on our talk today, that will raise your level of sophistication about Bitcoin. Number one, it is not Bitcoin that's volatile. It's the most unvolatile thing in the universe. It's the fiat currency's opinion of the item that's volatile. The fiat currency through which you're looking has no clue of how to value this thing. Why? Because it's a baby. It has the record of a beast, but it's a baby. What the heck is this thing? It's still relatively small. All right. It's big, 800 billion, but still that's kind of small when it comes to nation state size. All right. It has no cash flow. So it is largely, from the traditional financial point of view, it is a price prediction asset. It's not a cash flow asset. And the derivatives market is if Bitcoin's a baby, then the derivatives market is barely born. And so understanding that these are the reasons why the fiat currency that you're using can't make up its mind. It's because of these items I listed. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't care what you think. It doesn't even care how old it is. It doesn't care whether it has cash flow or not. TikTok next block, it does what it set out to do without any human intervention, and it's never failed. So understanding this is what will separate you from the rest. Understanding, no, you think Bitcoin's volatile? It's not Bitcoin's volatility. It's your unit of account. It's the US dollar that's volatile against Bitcoin. It doesn't know what to make of it because of these items. Youth, size, small, no cash flow. Derivatives market is very, very, very young. And then the last thing is that Bitcoin almost requires this to be true now. It uses it as a feature, not a bug. It uses this volatility to ensure that the right people latch on. It uses it to rid itself of the leeches that are trying to use it for the very opposite of what it's come to accomplish and do. Understand these points. And I promise you, you will be head and shoulders above the level of understanding that most people have about this very special asset. And I believe that the earlier you get a deep view of Bitcoin, the earlier you understand these things before others do, the more you position yourself to be the greatest beneficiaries of all. Because while I believe the entire human race will ultimately be a beneficiary because of to Bitcoin, there will be a beneficiary of Bitcoin, that Bitcoin will pay dividends forever. But there are going to, as is the case with everything else, there are going to be different levels of beneficiaries. And those who get this first, those who get this the right way before the masses, before it's obvious, they stand to be beneficiaries on a different level. That will not give them more control over another human being. By the way, that will not give them more control over Bitcoin, but the benefits to them and their family line will be on a different level for sure. And that's just life. It's just the way life works. All right, guys. That's my talk on volatility today. Again, guys, I did do a rather deep dive on this in a former session a few days ago. I strongly encourage that you take that one in too, because I think that was extraordinarily powerful. Got a number of people here. I appreciate all of you who have shown up here. I see quite a few comments here. So I'll try to take a few. Again, I'm trying not to keep these things too long, because the longer the sessions are, the smaller the engagement I usually get on the recorded forums. So I'm trying to do my best, but I get so freaking riled up with this. So it's very difficult for me to I think most of these comments are from one person. So um uh Dilavar Singh says, I love the fact that you speak eloquently. For Allah loves eloquent speech. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have been, uh, I've actually been traveling the world, guys, for the last 30 years of my life, 30 plus years of my life, spreading the gospel of financial freedom. It's quite strange because I just believe that as I look back on my career, on my history, my past, it just in this very uncanny way, it appears as though everything that I've been doing, everything that I had an interest in, everything that I delved into, everything that I became somewhat of an expert on, has just seemed to be preparation for what I'm doing now with Bitcoin. And all the way down to my doing world tours almost every single year for the last 30 years, spreading the gospel of financial freedom. And I continue to do that, but I do that for Bitcoin today. And last year on my global tour, spreading the gospel of Bitcoin as freedom, uh, I think the number, it's not always easy to calculate these numbers, but over 9,000 people throughout the world orange pill. So I'm very proud of that, and I will continue to do that. I believe that every single individual who really truly gets this will ultimately move to the point where they use every single skill that they have for the betterment of Bitcoin, that they use everything that they are, everything that they do, everything that they're good at, their skill set, their intelligence, their knowledge, their information. They will use that for the betterment of Bitcoin. Why? Why would you not? If this is your freedom, why would you not dedicate everything that you have, everything that you are for the betterment of the item that is your vault, the vault for your family that is protecting everything that you have earned, everything that you are storing away for future use? Why would you not give that to Bitcoin? Bitcoin is ultimately going to attract the best this world has to offer, the best engineers, the best computer programmers, the best marketers, the best entrepreneurs, the best technicians, the best speakers, the best motivators, the best salespeople, the best managers, the best everything will be sucked into this ultimate black hole we call Bitcoin. And it's just the beginning. All right. Listen, guys, listen, I want to thank you all for joining in. As I'm always telling you, I made a vow a long time ago that each time I'm offered the honor and the ability to speak to you either through a mic like this on a live session or in a live audience or on stage, even in a recorded session, I do my very best to deliver something of value that I think that you'll be able to use for the rest of your life. That is my hope. That is my promise. I hope I've done that here today. And if I haven't, I'm going to work on this every single time. I'm going to get better and better. All right. Thank you once again for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day. And you know what to do. Go to work, guys. Go to work. Stack harder. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!